A cocky thug raised his fist to strike a veteran's elderly mother right in front of a royal guard. But what happened next made the entire crowd hold their breath. Before we continue, let us know in the comments, where are you watching from today? And if you believe respect and honor still matter in today's world, make sure to subscribe so you never miss these powerful stories. In the heart of London, beneath a cloudy sky that promised both rain and revelations, the iconic facade of Buckingham Palace loomed as a silent witness to history. Tourists bustled along the marble pathways, their voices blending with the murmur of conversations and the click of cameras. Amidst this lively backdrop, Sergeant James Rowley stood as an embodiment of tradition and unyielding dignity. His uniform, meticulously maintained, was more than just fabric and insignia. It was a symbol of a lifetime devoted to service and sacrifice. Today, as he performed his duty with quiet vigilance, his mind held memories of battles fought and the solemn oath of honor that had carried him through decades of conflict and commitment. Beside him, his mother Margaret moved slowly, but with an aura of quiet resilience, her presence a living tribute to the legacy of valor and family that had defined their lives. Unbeknownst to the casual onlookers, this serene moment was about to be shattered by an unexpected display of arrogance and cruelty. In that charged moment, as the clouds overhead mirrored the brewing tension, the unfolding scene became more than a mere incident. It was a testament to the enduring strength of character over fleeting bravado. The royal guard, with his steely gaze and measured movements, was the very picture of discipline honed by years of rigorous training and life's hard-earned lessons. Even as the young man's antics began to ripple through the gathered crowd, a profound stillness emanated from James. His presence was a silent, unwavering promise that integrity and respect would always prevail over disrespect and chaos. The juxtaposition of old and new, of honorable tradition against the reckless impulse of modern excess, set the stage for a confrontation that would soon capture the hearts and minds of everyone present. In the quiet aftermath of that initial spark of tension, the daily routines of the palace grounds resumed with a renewed sense of purpose. Sergeant James Rowley had spent decades patrolling these storied corridors, his every step a tribute to the honor of his service and the heritage of a nation. His eyes, steady and observant, missed nothing as he moved with deliberate care among the historic stones and lush greenery of the royal estate. Every crease on his face told a tale of courage, sacrifice, and an unyielding commitment to duty. Born into a family where the echoes of military valor resonated through generations, James had been raised on lessons of integrity and self-discipline, values that were now as integral to him as the crisp, well-worn fabric of his uniform. Today, more than ever, his presence was a comforting reminder of resilience and responsibility. Beside him, his mother Margaret, though frail in stature, carried herself with a quiet dignity that belied her age. Her gentle smile and kind eyes were reflections of a lifetime of nurturing strength and fostering the spirit of community. The bond they shared was profound, a silent understanding that transcended words, forged in the fires of hardship and nurtured by unwavering love. As she ambled slowly along the path, supported by a well-worn cane and the memory of bygone days, the subtle grace in her movement underscored the deep respect she commanded from everyone who knew her story. Around them, the palace grounds buzzed with the low hum of daily life. Visitors marveled at the grandeur of the architecture, unaware that beneath the surface of this picturesque routine lay the enduring spirit of a guardian, dedicated to upholding honor and protecting the integrity of a storied institution. Every passing moment was a testament to the discipline instilled in James, each careful step a silent promise that no act of disrespect, however minor, would go unanswered. The air, rich with the scent of freshly cut grass and the faint aroma of brewing tea from nearby cafes, carried an unspoken promise that honor was not a relic of the past, but a living, breathing force in the present. Emerging from the sea of visitors was Darren, a young man whose every gesture exuded a sense of entitlement and careless bravado. With a confident stride and an air of defiance, he cut a striking figure against the refined backdrop of royal tradition. Darren was the product of a modern culture obsessed with quick fame and the shallow validation of likes and shares, his designer clothes and flashy accessories, a stark contrast to the time-honored attire of those who had dedicated their lives to service. His smartphone was almost an extension of his arm, poised at the ready to capture moments that would, in his mind, elevate his online persona to new heights. Behind his smirking eyes lay an insatiable hunger for attention, a desire to disrupt the status quo and flaunt his perceived superiority. As he wandered through the gathered crowd, Darren's eyes fixed on the venerable pair with an unnerving intensity. His laughter, a sharp and mocking sound, cut through the ambient murmur of polite conversation. It was as if he sought to puncture the solemn atmosphere with his irreverence, to challenge the very ideals that Sergeant Rowley embodied. In his mind, the seasoned guard was nothing more than a symbol of an outdated system, rigid, unyielding, and utterly unamusing. Yet, beneath this veneer of self-assured arrogance, there flickered hints of insecurity. Darren's need to be seen, to be heard, and to be admired masked a deeper fear of inadequacy. Every derisive comment and exaggerated gesture was an attempt to assert dominance, a desperate bid to silence the lingering doubts about his own worth. The moment his eyes locked onto James and his mother, a spark of malicious intent ignited within him. The juxtaposition of the seasoned guard and his tender, aging companion provided him with an irresistible opportunity for mischief. With a practiced ease born of countless online pranks, he began to approach the pair, his steps measured and his smile deceptively benign. Unbeknownst to him, every move he made was a step toward an inevitable collision of ideals, a confrontation that would soon expose the true measure of strength and the enduring power of respect. As Darren drew closer, the casual glances of onlookers shifted into a mix of curiosity and apprehension. With a casual wave and a smirk that hinted at trouble, he initiated a series of small provocations. At first, his jabs were subtle, almost playful, a whispered comment here, an exaggerated mimicry of the guard's rigid stance there. He attempted to draw a reaction from James, testing the waters of decorum and dignity. His voice, though light and teasing, carried a note of insolence that belied his ostensibly harmless facade. "Hey, is this how heroes stand all day?" he called out loudly, his tone dripping with mock admiration turned derision. His words echoed slightly against the historic walls, eliciting a ripple of uneasy laughter from some bystanders. James, a paragon of restraint and experience, met each provocation with quiet composure. His eyes remained steady, his posture unaltered, as if each barb was nothing more than an insignificant disturbance in the grand tapestry of his life's service. In contrast, Darren's attempt at levity faltered against the steadfast wall of respect that James embodied, leaving a subtle but palpable tension in its wake. Margaret, standing quietly beside her son, observed the unfolding interaction with a mixture of concern and silent support. Her gentle eyes, filled with a lifetime of wisdom and resilience, met Darren's with a look that was both compassionate and subtly disapproving. A silent reminder that true character is measured not by the fleeting applause of a crowd, but by the enduring strength of one's spirit. The small jabs continued, each one a careful step taken by Darren to escalate the encounter without fully committing to overt aggression, a barrage of insults designed to provoke that only underscored James's unwavering dignity. The casual barbs gave way to a more pronounced escalation, as Darren, emboldened by his initial successes, began to raise the stakes of his provocation. No longer content with mere whispers and slight mockery, he started moving closer, invading the personal space of the dignified guard. With a deliberately theatrical swagger, he stepped right into James's path, drawing the attention of the crowd even further. "Oi, mate, blink if you're human," he jeered, his loud, boisterous challenge slicing through the ambient noise. His voice, charged with the raw energy of youthful arrogance, met with a collective shudder from the onlookers. The once casual observers now found themselves at the crossroads of entertainment and concern, their smiles fading as the gravity of the situation became evident. In the midst of this unfolding drama, subtle cues from the crowd revealed a growing unease. Parents instinctively pulled their children closer, shielding them from what might be an unpredictable confrontation, while elderly veterans, those who had witnessed both glory and the ravages of disrespect, exchanged anxious glances. The festive atmosphere of the palace grounds, once marked by laughter and chatter, now throbbed with anxious silence and uncertain anticipation. Despite the rising tension, James maintained his unyielding composure, his stance as firm as ever, his eyes reflecting the depth of his commitment. Even as the young man advanced with brazen disregard for decorum, the air itself seemed to vibrate with the promise that honor, embodied in the steadfast guard, would not be so easily undermined. In a final, reckless bid to assert his dominance, Darren's eyes turned from the imposing figure of James to the gentle presence of Margaret. The shift in his target was deliberate, a calculated move meant to provoke a reaction by striking at the heart of what James held most dear. With a sneer curling his lips, Darren sauntered over to where Margaret stood, her frail frame a stark contrast to the robust aura of her son. "What's this then? Mummy's boy needs backup?" he taunted, his words laced with both derision and crude humor. The comment, aimed directly at her, shattered the thin veneer of calm that had enveloped the gathering. For a fleeting moment, time seemed to slow as the gravity of Darren's act registered with everyone present. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd, a sound mingled with shock, anger, and disbelief. Eyes widened, and murmurs of disapproval quickly replaced earlier light-hearted chuckles. The tension, which had been building silently and steadily, now reached a fever pitch as onlookers watched with bated breath. James's hand tightened around his ceremonial rifle, the weight of his years and the burden of duty converging in that charged moment. Yet even as the situation escalated dangerously, his face remained an impassive mask of resolve. Margaret, though visibly shaken by the brazen disrespect, held her ground with a dignity that transcended the moment. Her eyes, filled with both sorrow and defiance, met Darren's, a silent challenge that spoke of a lifetime spent enduring and overcoming adversity. The audacity of the young man, his physical proximity, and the deliberate threat implicit in his raised fist coalesced into a scene both dramatic and poignant, leaving the fate of the moment hanging in the balance as the crowd collectively demanded a restoration of decency. With the tension reaching an almost unbearable crescendo, Sergeant James Rowley stepped forward with a quiet determination that silenced even the most boisterous murmurs. His measured pace and resolute gaze drew every eye in the vicinity, as if the very air had been commanded to listen to his words. In the midst of a situation charged with the potential for chaos, he chose not to raise his voice or resort to physical force, but instead to rely on the timeless power of dignity and reason. Approaching Darren with an aura of calm authority, he locked eyes with the young provocateur and spoke in a tone both firm and compassionate. "This uniform," he began, his voice steady and imbued with the weight of a lifetime of sacrifice, "has seen battlefields that you will never understand from behind a screen. That woman beside me is not just a relic of the past. She is a living testament to the courage, love, and resilience that have built our nation. You may think your words are sharp, but they lack the substance of true honor." The impact of his words rippled through the crowd like a powerful wave, each syllable a reminder of the values that had been tested by time. He continued, "My mother carried the legacy of those who fought and fell for a cause greater than themselves. Her strength, though gentle, is a fortress built on the principles you seem to have forgotten. Today you choose to mock and provoke, but in doing so you reveal the emptiness of your own spirit. True strength is measured not by the force of a punch, but by the courage to stand firm in the face of disrespect." His calm, deliberate articulation cut through the tension with the precision of a well-honed blade, transforming the confrontation from a battle of brawn into a contest of ideals. The crowd, now riveted by the unexpected clarity and moral authority of his declaration, fell into a profound silence. Even those who had found humor in Darren's antics could not ignore the deep truth in his words, a truth that underscored that honor, respect, and the quiet dignity of service were forces far more potent than the transient clamor of youthful arrogance. In the wake of James's composed yet searing response, the veneer of bravado that had long shielded Darren began to crumble. His confident smirk, once the hallmark of defiant pride, faded into an expression of bewilderment and dawning realization. The charged silence that followed was filled with an almost palpable sense of judgment, a collective acknowledgement that the true cost of his actions was now clear. Darren's eyes darted around, seeking an escape or a form of validation that was no longer forthcoming. His smartphone, which moments before had been ready to capture his triumph, now lay idle as he grappled with the humiliation of his actions. Around him, the mood of the crowd shifted dramatically. What had begun as a seemingly inconsequential act of defiance was now recognized for its deep disrespect. Soft boos mingled with murmurs of disapproval as onlookers made it clear that his behavior was unacceptable. A nearby officer, vigilant in his duty to maintain order, stepped forward with quiet but firm authority, placing a gentle yet unyielding hand on Darren's shoulder. In that instant, Darren's world of ephemeral social validation began to collapse. The realization that his actions had insulted not only an institution, but also the legacy of those who had dedicated their lives to serving a greater cause, was a bitter pill to swallow. His online followers, once enchanted by his antics, now witnessed the stark contrast between his intended performance and the reality of unprovoked disrespect. The young man's posture sagged, his head bowed in an unspoken admission of defeat, as the collapse of his facade served as a powerful reminder that arrogance without substance is doomed to falter before the enduring strength of true respect. Within hours, the incident took on a life of its own. Footage of Sergeant Rowley's measured words and the raw vulnerability of that charged moment spread rapidly across social media, resonating with millions who yearned for a reaffirmation of timeless values. Accompanied by captions praising the dignity of service and the strength of restraint, the video sparked a global conversation that transcended age, background, and nationality. Families gathered around screens to witness this striking demonstration of honor, and the story soon became a touchstone for discussions about the importance of upholding tradition in a modern world. Veteran communities in particular found solace and pride in the event, seeing it as a vindication of a lifetime of sacrifice and the sacrifices of those who had come before. News outlets and opinion columns heralded the encounter as a powerful reminder that true strength is not measured by physical might or the clamor of social media, but by the quiet, enduring power of respect and decency. Classrooms, community centers, and dinner tables became venues for spirited discussions, where teachers and parents alike used the incident as a case study in the value of self-restraint and the courage to stand firm in one's beliefs. What had begun as a moment of conflict transformed into a broader dialogue about honor, a narrative that celebrated the steadfast guardians of tradition and challenged the ephemeral allure of modern arrogance. As the days passed, the echoes of that defining moment continued to reverberate far beyond the palace grounds. Sergeant James Rowley returned to his post with the same stoic grace that had always characterized his service, yet the atmosphere now vibrated with an undercurrent of deep respect and quiet admiration. The palace, once just a backdrop to everyday routines, had become a living classroom, a place where every visitor was silently reminded of the timeless values of honor, dignity, and self-restraint. Margaret, her delicate hand resting gently on her son's arm, moved with renewed pride and quiet resolve. The painful confrontation with disrespect had transformed into a beacon of hope, a living reminder that the legacy of sacrifice and unwavering commitment to duty was as vital today as ever. In the soft glow of the setting sun, as the stately walls absorbed the fading light, a gentle murmur of admiration passed through the crowd. Stories of that day wove themselves into the fabric of community conversation, a tale of conflict that had blossomed into a celebration of enduring values. Children listened with wide-eyed wonder as their parents recounted the events, their voices filled with hope and the promise of a future defined by respect. Neighbors exchanged nods of quiet solidarity, and even strangers shared brief smiles, each a small acknowledgement that true valor resides in the ability to remain composed in the face of provocation. In the aftermath of that fateful encounter, life at Buckingham Palace resumed its stately rhythm. Yet for those who had witnessed the day's events, nothing would ever be quite the same. Sergeant Rowley's daily routine, once seen as a mere expression of duty, had become a living testament to the enduring power of honor. Every measured step he took served as a reminder that true strength is not found in the clamor of conflict, but in the quiet, steadfast courage of a dignified soul. As twilight deepened into night, the legacy of that moment continued to shine. A call to remember that in a world too often swayed by the transient allure of instant gratification, the timeless virtues of respect and integrity remain our greatest guides. And so, as the palace stood bathed in the gentle glow of history, those who had borne witness to that defining day were left to reflect on the profound truth that the real measure of a person lies not in the force they can exert, but in the strength of their character when faced with adversity.